Every cinematic scene has a story, and every story starts somewhere. Today we're breaking down how I lit, shot, and refined a simple cinematic scene in my office. This series of videos isn't about fancy gear or having a Hollywood-sized crew. It's about taking small, intentional steps to elevate your work with simple tools. This is where we ended up, but this is where we started. A blank slate with nothing but a desk lamp lighting the scene. So let's break it down. The first thing I did was assess the natural ambient light. This shot was taken in the middle of the day, and behind camera is a bedroom with tons of natural sunlight. So I simply opened the door to see if that ambient light would be enough to light this door frame here. It looked okay, but the warm color from the curtains wasn't working for the moonlight vibe that I wanted. Plus, they were cutting too much light. So I decided to open the curtains to reduce the warmth as well as increase the overall exposure. But then it happened. It was time for my son to take a nap in that room, so I shut that door and opened up another one right next to it. With the curtains and blinds open, a lot of natural light spilled into this hallway, bounced off the wall, and onto the door frame. As a bonus, the walls in this house are kind of like a baby blue color, which added to this nice blue moonlight. At this point, the scene looked decent, but it still felt like I was in a dark room with no windows. Nobody likes to be in a dark void, so I wanted to fix that. The first thing I tried was placing an aperture B7C in the corner by the window and pointed it directly at me. It was close to the look I was shooting for, but the light was too directional and overall it just looked fake. So I turned the light in the opposite direction to bounce off the wall and the ceiling. This softened the light, brought down the intensity, and gave the room a natural looking moonlight glow. Moving on to the medium close-up, I once again started by assessing the ambient light in the room. Seeing as this is a night scene, I closed the blinds to this window and pulled the sheer curtains closed. So this is how we're starting. I don't really like this key light, which is the little desk lamp, but we're gonna keep it on as of right now. That way we have some sort of light on my face to see what we're doing. And we're gonna work in the background. So first, this window right there, I want it to feel like nighttime, and it's too bright. Like looking at the false color, it's brighter than I am. So we're going to bring that down with a 0.9 ND gel, see what that does, and maybe double up, I don't know. And then we'll go from there. Now, this is the ghetto way to apply gels to a window, but it's just me in my office. This isn't a professional shoot, so that's how we do. If you also want to do a ghetto fabulous job like this, you have to make sure to prevent these little pockets of light from sticking out from the sides of the gel, especially if your goal is a night scene. Okay, before I even do the next take, I can already tell that the light is now a little too dark. Super easy fix. All I have to do is open the blinds just a little more, just to let some more light in, and then we will work on an edge light. And simply opening the blinds a little more gave me what I was looking for. With that done, it was time to add some moonlight into the room, and this light is also going to act as our edge light. And this is going to pull me from the background, especially since I'm wearing a black shirt in this scene. But wearing a black shirt was intentional to show you how big of a difference it makes to add an edge light for a scene. And I know that sounds like I'm lying, but I actually did do this on purpose, I promise. For this light, I took an aperture B7C with an AC adapter and boomed it behind and over top of me. Setting it to 5600 Kelvin didn't quite give me that blue moonlight I was looking for, so I used a desaturated cyan color. Okay, so here we have our edge light. It is a B7C, right now it's at 57%. I'm gonna throw it to 100, see what it looks like. Let's see. Let's go to 75. Okay, so let's try that and see what that looks like. So I think we're gonna keep it. Let's move on to, you can't see it because it's too dark, but there's a little shelf over here, and I want to throw a light back behind the plants, and there's a little Polaroid camera back there. So yeah, let's add a little texture of light in the background. For this, I took yet another B7C. I've been on a B7C kick lately, and placed it behind the plant and the camera on the shelf. The intensity was set to 50%, and to contrast the cool moonlight, I set it to 2700 Kelvin. I like the way this looks, but there's a glaring issue. We have a giant hotspot where you can see the light. What I'm going to do is take a small little piece of cinefoil, place it in front of the light, and that way we still have the light going on either side of the bookshelf, spilling out and then spilling out the top as well. So let's try that, just so you can see it, because it's way too dark for the camera back there. It's just this tiny little piece of cinefoil. After adding the cinefoil, you can see that hotspot is completely gone now. And if we look at a before and after, you'll also notice that the cinefoil brought down the overall brightness of the light, but I still like the way it looked, so I left it as is. To finish this shot, we just have to fix the key light. I wasn't happy with the way the desk lamp looked. Also, after reviewing the footage, it has a green tint to it. So I decided on a skip bounce off the table, using an aperture 300D and a snoot attachment. I boomed it over top of the desk and had it shooting down through this wire grate at the top. Using a snoot also contained the light more, so it wasn't spilling throughout the room as much. Here's a comparison so you can see the difference with the desk light and then with the snoot. And swapping out the light gives us this. And it's way worse. It's okay, that happens sometimes, but I can see the ingredients of what I'm looking for, so stick with me here. I want to eliminate the dark circles under my eyes, and I need to bring up the overall exposure on my face. Also, side note, I thought this blue light was a lens flare from the 300D, but it turns out I accidentally moved the edge light closer into the frame, and that's where that flare is coming from, so easy fix. Anyways, I decided to take some scrap muslin and place it on the table as a bounce. This gives us a dramatically different look. Just look at this before and after. As crazy. It didn't completely solve the issue of the circles under my eyes, but I'll show you what I did to fix that in just a second. And here's our final image. Now, to fix the dark circles under my eyes, all I had to do was scoot my chair and my whole body back and make sure my head was down. This kept the light even across my face, and scooting back also reduced the peaking on my hands, which was a nice bonus. Finally, we move into the close-up of the drone. This shot was deceptively simple, yet incredibly frustrating. I don't own a macro lens, so I improvised and used a +4 macro filter on my 35mm lens. The frustration lies in the fact that I kept bumping the camera or moving the drone during the shot. That may not sound like a big deal, but with a macro lens, every tiny, small, minute movement is amplified. And it took forever to get a clean shot. So I turned off all the lights in the room except for the desk light. I placed the drone back onto the black rubber mat and then backlit it with the desk lamp, which was relatively close to the drone. Initially, the drone was laying flat, but I didn't like the angle. You couldn't really see what I was doing, which is kind of the point. So I decided to prop it up and tilted it toward the camera. And that's it. Well, after the 37 takes it took. So here's where we ended up. Every light, every adjustment, and every problem that we solved brought us closer to this final image. You can see that you don't need the biggest or the baddest lights in every situation. Keeping it simple, adding light in layers, and experimenting can yield great results. And never forget that the process is what makes filmmaking so great. As always, thank you so much for spending just a little bit of time with me today, and I'll see you again in the next video.